Here's the truth. No one tells women. The best men are not attracted to beauty, silence, or sacrifice. They are drawn to emotional discipline, self-respect, and standards that don't need defending. If you keep attracting the wrong men, it's not bad luck, it's habits. And once you change them, the entire game changes. A woman who always ends up with the best men understands something most people never stop to question. Attraction is not created by pursuit. It's revealed through patience. She doesn't chase attention, affection, or reassurance because she already knows who she is. She doesn't need to convince a man to choose her. She waits to see if he can rise to the level she already lives at. When a woman chases, she unknowingly flips the dynamic. She starts investing before the man has proven consistency, effort, or character. She fills silence with explanations, excuses, and emotional labor. But the woman who attracts high-quality men moves differently. She creates space. She watches. She lets time do the talking, because time never lies. Choosing instead of chasing doesn't mean playing games or pretending not to care. It means refusing to abandon yourself just to feel wanted. It means understanding that real interest doesn't need to be pushed. A man who is serious doesn't need reminders. He shows up. He follows through. He makes his intentions clear without being asked. And if he doesn't, she doesn't panic. She simply notices. This woman doesn't rush emotional intimacy. She doesn't project a future onto potential. She stays grounded in the present. How does he speak? How does he handle boundaries? Does his behavior stay consistent when things slow down? She isn't impressed by words, charm, or promises. She's paying attention to patterns, because patterns reveal truth faster than emotion ever will. And here's what changes everything. She is not afraid of losing someone who hasn't earned her trust. That fear is what causes most women to chase. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone, fear of missing out. But she's already at peace with her own company. So she never trades her dignity for temporary validation. If a man pulls away, she doesn't pursue. She lets him go. Not as punishment, not as strategy, but because she understands that chasing someone who is uncertain only teaches them that uncertainty is acceptable. High-quality men feel this difference immediately. They feel the absence of pressure. They feel the clarity. They feel the quiet confidence of a woman who is not trying to impress them. And that creates respect. Respect is the foundation of attraction that lasts. A man may enjoy being chased, but he commits to the woman who chooses him slowly. She also understands that choosing is an active process. She's not passive. She asks herself honest questions. Do his actions match his words? Does his presence bring peace or confusion? Does he add value to her life or drain it? She doesn't ignore red flags hoping potential will turn into reality. She doesn't explain away behavior that makes her uneasy. She trusts her observations more than her emotions. This is why the best men stay, because they are being evaluated, not pedestalized. They are not handed access just because they showed interest. They earn it through consistency, respect, and effort. And when a man realizes a woman is choosing him, not needing him, he rises, or he leaves. Either way, she wins. There's a quiet power in knowing you can walk away without drama, without revenge, without needing closure. That power comes from self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It stands still and lets what's aligned come closer. The moment you stop chasing, you start attracting, and only then do the best men step forward. One of the clearest differences between women who struggle in relationships and women who consistently attract high-quality men is how they handle their emotions. Not whether they feel deeply, because they do, but how they respond when emotions are triggered. These women don't suppress their feelings, and they don't let their feelings drive their behavior. They've learned how to pause, and that pause changes everything. Most emotional damage in relationships doesn't come from what is felt. It comes from what is expressed too quickly, too intensely, or without clarity. When insecurity rises, many people rush to explain themselves, demand reassurance, or react defensively. But a woman with emotional regulation understands that every reaction teaches people how to treat her. So instead of reacting, she regulates. She notices the emotion before acting on it, the tightening in her chest, the urge to text, the impulse to defend or prove, and instead of letting that impulse take control, she slows down. She asks herself one simple question: is this emotion asking for expression, or is it asking for understanding? That distinction is maturity. She doesn't confuse calm with weakness. Calm is control. It signals that she trusts herself enough not to panic. And that kind of emotional stability is rare. High-quality men are not drawn to chaos. They're drawn to clarity. They're drawn to women who can sit with discomfort without turning it into conflict. This doesn't mean she stays silent when something matters. It means she chooses the right moment and the right tone. She speaks from clarity, not from agitation. When she communicates, her words are measured, direct, grounded. There's no emotional dumping, no testing, no dramatic swings. She doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She lowers it. And people listen. What makes this powerful is consistency. Anyone can stay calm once. But these women stay regulated over time. They don't oscillate between affection and withdrawal. They don't use emotions as leverage. Their behavior is steady, predictable, safe, and that creates trust. A man begins to relax around a woe. Man like this. He doesn't feel like he's walking on emotional landmines. He doesn't feel pressured to manage her moods. He feels invited into partnership, not performance. That emotional safety is what turns attraction into commitment. She also understands that emotional regulation protects her from making decisions she'll regret. She doesn't chase when she feels anxious. She doesn't overgive when she feels insecure. She doesn't explain herself to someone who hasn't asked. She allows emotions to pass before deciding what action aligns with her standards. And here's the part most people miss. Regulating emotions doesn't disconnect her from them. It deepens her relationship with herself. She listens instead of reacting. She reflects instead of exploding. She processes instead of projecting. That inner discipline builds confidence because she knows she can handle whatever comes up without losing herself. Low-quality men struggle with this. They test boundaries, they provoke reactions, they rely on emotional chaos to feel in control. But when they don't get that reaction, they lose interest or expose themselves quickly. And that's not a loss. It's a filter. The best men, on the other hand, lean in. They respect a woman who can hold her emotional center. They feel challenged in the right way. They know that a woman who can regulate herself will also hold standards, communicate clearly, and walk away if necessary. Emotional regulation is quiet power. It doesn't announce its LF. It's felt. And once you master it, you stop begging to be understood and start being respected. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern relationships is the concept of standards. Many people think standards are something you announce, defend, or negotiate. But women who consistently attract the best men understand a deeper truth. Real standards don't need speeches. They need consistency. And they are enforced quietly, not emotionally. A woman with real standards doesn't threaten to leave. She doesn't warn, bargain, or argue someone into respecting her. She doesn't say, "If you do this one more time," because she already knows what she will do. Her boundaries are internal before they are ever external. That's why when they're crossed, her response is calm and decisive, not reactive. This kind of woman doesn't confuse chemistry with compatibility. She doesn't lower her expectations because someone is charming or exciting. She understands that attraction without respect always leads to imbalance. So she watches behavior closely. Is there consistency? Is there follow-through? Is there effort without reminders? If the answer starts becoming unclear, she doesn't get louder. She gets quieter. Silence is not punishment for her. It's clarity. When she pulls back, it's not to create anxiety or force a reaction. It's because she's observing. She's letting someone show her how much access they're willing to earn. And if the effort doesn't increase, she doesn't chase it. She adjusts her availability. She also understands that enforcing standards isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about controlling her own response. She doesn't try to change people. She lets people be exactly who they are, and then she decides whether that person fits into her life. That's what makes her powerful. She's not attached to outcomes. She's attached to alignment. Many women struggle here because they fear being seen as too much, too demanding, too rigid, too hard to please. But a woman with self-respect knows that the right man won't be intimidated by her standards. He'll be drawn to them because standards signal clarity, and clarity is attractive to men who know what they want. Low-quality men reveal themselves quickly around women like this. They test limits. They push boundaries. They see how much they can get away with. But when there's no emotional reaction, no arguing, no second chances disguised as patience, they either step up or step out. Either way, the woman stays in her power. What's important to understand is that standards without enforcement are just preferences. And preferences are easy to ignore. Enforcement doesn't mean drama. It means action. It means distance. It means a shift in energy. When disrespect appears, access is reduced. Not explained, not justified, just reduced. This woman doesn't need validation from being chosen. She's already chosen herself. That's why walking away doesn't feel like loss. It feels like alignment. She knows that staying in situations where her standards are repeatedly crossed would cost her peace, and peace is not negotiable. And here's the subtle part. When a man realizes a woman will remove herself without warning, he takes her seriously. Not out of fear, out of respect. Because he understands that she's not bluffing. Her standards are not emotional reactions. They are values. She doesn't wait for closure. She doesn't wait for apologies that may never come. She trusts that her actions communicate everything that needs to be said. And the men who are capable of meeting her standards don't feel confused by this. They feel clear. They know where they stand. They know what's expected. That's why the best men stay. And the rest fade quietly into the background, where they belong. One of the most attractive qualities a woman can have has nothing to do with how she looks or how much attention she receives. It's the quiet fact that her life already feels full. She isn't waiting for a relationship to begin living. She isn't putting her happiness on hold until someone arrives to complete it. She's already moving forward, already growing, already building a life that feels meaningful.